Hi Gary, Jonathan Pickup. Hopefully Ethan will join us in a minute. So this is of the architectural technologist, and I really appreciate you giving up your time to talk to us. Tell me about your career and how you got to where you are now.
Well, I went to Wellington University. I was one of the fourth year students through. Um, we only had a class size of, I think it was 28. Out of the 28, I think only a dozen graduated. Victoria was very technical, with an emphasis on structure and detailing. um, all this, not so much of an emphasis on design. Design was part of it. I really enjoyed it there. The small class size was great. Then I left and came into Hawke's Bay and worked for a builder for a couple of years. It was an interesting exercise being on the other side of the drawings and having to build what was drawn. I then got a job with Natouche Partnership, which was Guy Natouche, Tim Judd, and Neil Fennick. That was interesting. It was good. It was good seeing how the office worked. I then left there after about 3 years and went and worked for Peter Holland and James Jack. Completely different approach to everything. The Natouche Partnership was an open plan office, and everybody could hear what was going on in the office. Peter Holland and James Jack, everybody was in their own office. Everybody was individual. There was very little inter-office communication, which I couldn't stand. Then I left there and went and worked for Education Board, which went from they had a staff of about 20. There was myself, Les Clapcott, who was a lovely guy, and there was 10 drafting technicians. Then Education Board closed, and so I decided to set up on practice on my own, and that was in 1989. I started out on my own with a receptionist. Then I hired 2 technicians from Ministry of Works. They worked with me. One was with me for 20 years. The other one was with me for about 15 years. We went from pencil and pen and ink drawings on tracing paper through to computers. Now we're all computers. We've been all computers for the last 20 years, really. I now have a staff of 5. We've got one away at the moment, which is 2 architects and 3 technicians. I use the term technicians loosely because we work as a team. I took things out of Education Board, the Natouche Partnership, and Peter Holland and said, okay, what were the bad things, what were the good things? And that's how I set up my practice. We have very strict rules in here. We always have morning tea together, no cell phones. We always have afternoon tea together, no cell phones. We always go to a separate room where we sit down and talk about everything else but architecture. We work in an open plan office. It's very collegial. There's no right or wrong answers. My favourite saying is, the only dumb question is the one you don't ask. And I got caught out once with a client. We were building a new house, about to pour the slab, and the wife said, I want to ask a question. And she said, and then the husband said, no, you can't ask a question. It's silly. And I said, no, the only questions that you don't ask is the dumb, if you don't ask, that's the dumb question. Anyway, she said, we're about to pour the slab, aren't we? We said, yes. She said, I've got an island kitchen, haven't I? And we said, yes. Shouldn't there be some plumbing in the slab for the island kitchen? And the builder looked at me and they'd completely missed the plumbing for the island kitchen. The look she gave her husband, but there was no dumb question. She saved everybody one hell of a lot of money and a heck of a lot of hassle. So, yeah, there's no dumb questions.
I mean, it's interesting. You went through several technical changes in your career. I mean, the major one, moving from the pencil drawings through to ink, and now everything's on computer. So it's a massive change in the way you produce projects. In other words, the way you produce documentation. but does it change the way you create projects? That is the way you think of them.
Yeah, that's a very good question. And what I've said to all of we moved to computers, and computers were a massive learning curve. What I've said to all of my staff is, you run the computer, don't let the computer run you. If you want to do something that you don't know how to do on the computer, find a way. Don't think, well, I don't know how to do a curve wall on a computer, so I'll make it square. If you want to do a curve wall, figure out how to do it. Don't let the computer control your design, you control it. And so we've had we've dived off into all sorts of tangents to get the computers to do what we want them to do. We've followed the technology. All our PCs are built in Hawke's Bay for us. We design them to do the sorts of things we want them to do, and to do them very fast. The computers were a great advance for us in terms of not having to, errors are so easily fixed. Changes are made so really quickly. You can keep track and logs of your drawings and your documentation. And we try and get the most out of technology, and we're always looking ahead with technology. We're always trying to get the best out of what we've got. Some things are good, some things aren't so good. We've been looking at AI just lately. We've looked at AI in terms of planning, and it's complete rubbish. We've looked at AI in terms of getting a concept and looking at the external environment of the building, and that has its merit. You can manipulate that to get the sorts of things you want out of it. We've been heavily into everything we do these days is in 3D, everything, including plumbing, drainage, electrical, everything's in 3D. But that means our model is and this has been like this for years, is a virtual reality model of the actual building. So about 8 years ago, I figured out that ArchiCAD produced a virtual reality model. So then I went hunting on the internet to find a program that could read an ArchiCAD virtual reality model. Because what we wanted to do was buy a VR headset and put our clients in it. Because a lot of clients have difficulty going from a 2D set of drawings into a 3D building. That jump is sometimes just too much. So we wanted something where they could actually experience the building before they had to build it. I found a program in China called Fusel, which is a construction programming tool, but it read ArchiCAD. So contacted them and asked them if I could get a demonstration program. No, you can't have a demonstration program. It'll cost you $3,000 and we'll give you a program. You can have the program, and there'll be a yearly subscription of about $500. So I took a punt, said, okay, we'll have a go. So an hour after I downloaded the program, we had the virtual reality running with one of our ArchiCAD models. That worked well for about 3 or 4 years. It was a bit clunky. And then ArchiCAD brought out Twin Motion, and that's just absolutely amazing. In the last month, we've had 3 sets of clients in here doing houses, various ones in addition, 2 are new houses. And at the concept stage, we put them into the virtual reality headset, and they go for a wander around the house. We can our houses are put in exactly to the GPS location, exactly to the north orientation of the site. We model the site in 3D. So if it's on a slope, all the characteristics of that site are put into the models. We can then place them into the house, and they can go for a wander around. And the big thing that they've all commented on is they didn't realise the scale or the volume of the buildings. Standing in the room, looking up at your ceiling that's 3.5 meters up, looking out the windows to the vineyards or the trees in the ground, and they go for a wander around, and they'll do it for an hour, and then they'll ring us the next day and said, can we come back and have another try? Because they were so flabbergasted with the first example, they really didn't take in what they were actually looking at. So they come back and have another go. But we can also stand them there. We had one guy, we're doing a house it's on a site in Havelock, it's a beautiful site. They've got vineyards in front of them. We took him down we got him in the VR to go down to the vineyards and look back at the house. And then we changed from daylight to nighttime, and all the lights came on in the house. And he was crying. He couldn't believe how beautiful this house looked at night with the lights going. We can stand them in the room and do a sun path while they're standing there at any time of the day, any time of the year. And they can stand there and see what the sun penetration is going to be, how, what's going to come in at this time of day, what's going to come in that time of day, when it's not going to come in, what shading they're going to get, what product they want on the floor, what product they want on the walls. Everything can be put in there before. This is during concept. It covers off on a whole lot of issues that from a 2D drawing that they don't realise that window was there and looking out here. They don't realise that the stud height's this high. They don't realise that it's a bit of a jump from here to that bedroom, or that this bedroom's this far away. But having to walk around it, they get a whole complete feel of it. So when they come to build it, our changes are minimal. We can go through our contingency. I don't think it's ever been taken on any of our houses. We just finished a $1.5 million house in Havelock, and I think we only used 10% of the contingency because they'd already seen where the power points are, they'd already seen where the taps are, they'd already seen where the light switches are, they already knew what colour it was going to be, roughly. So it takes a whole lot of unknowns, and they get to see it and make a decision on it before the thing goes into the ground. So that is a huge advantage for us.
I mean, part of architecture, part of the practice of architecture is managing clients' expectations, what you deliver for them.
Yep.
And so this VR must certainly manage the client's expectations.
Yep. Oh, absolutely. And that's key, managing expectations. And that's in terms of size, volume, and cost. So very early on, when our first concept's done, we'll sit down and put a budget on it and say, this is what you're looking at, and we tend to be conservative. It's better the $1.5 million house we have just finished, our estimate on it was 1.6. We back cost all of our projects after they're finished. We add in all the variations, all the changes, all the outside influences, geotech, structure, landscaping. So we give the client an overall budget that this thing's going to cost to finish. And they make a decision on that, not on the cost plus. So we do that at concept stage. Things will change, things might get bigger, things might get smaller. So when we get to towards the end of the construction documentation, again, we'll have if there's been major changes, we'll go back again and say, look, you've added on 50 square metres to this house, you've taken your budget up to here, are you still happy with this? And it's either you're going to have to be happy with this, or we cut some off, or that's thing. And they make a conscious decision. I hate getting tenders in that have blown clients' budget. I don't want to know about that, and that doesn't matter. We do housing from $350,000 to $4.5 million, and it's just as important at the $350,000 to get it right as it is to the $4.5 million. We're looking at developing a very cost-effective design house. We've just had a 3-bedroom, kitchen, dining, lounge, 120 square metre house costed out by the builders at $350,000 plus just. It can be built in situ, it can be built transportable, it complies with the 2030 insulation code, it can be made carbon neutral, and the whole thing can be done for under $400,000. And we're doing several of those. So we cover the whole gambit, and we cover the gambit because we don't see ourselves as we see ourselves as a facilitator. So if people want a house, I don't want to design my house for them. I want to design their house for them. It's a matter of getting inside their heads and trying to understand what they're trying to do and what they like, stretching a little bit because you don't want it to be boring. You don't want them to you are familiar. You just want to take what they love and like and just expand on it and really make them thrilled about it. But it's a collaborative affair and it's their house, but we're just being the facilitators. And that's what and everybody has you want to get buy-in. You want to get buy-in for the client, you want to get buy-in from the staff doing it, and you want to get buy-in from the builder. If you can get buy-in from all three of those things, you're going to have a successful project.
It's interesting. We started off talking about where your experience started, and we've ended up talking a little bit about the future as well, about the AI and things like that. So thank you very much for joining me.
Yep, that'll be lovely.